Hey guys, I'm back. It's Mary from Wild Heaven Farms. Today I'm in the kitchen pressure canning chicken breast. So I'm raw packing it into my jars. The first thing I'm gonna do is go over my instructions. I've got my book here and I keep a little cheat sheet here of how many 8-ounce jars will fit into my pressure canner. And so I'm gonna gather up my supplies, throw my hair up, and I'll meet you all back here in the kitchen. You'll need that to wipe the rim of your jar. So the first thing you do when you're canning anything with your pressure canner is you look through this pressure release valve to make sure that there's no food or anything stuck in it. So if you can't see light through it, you need to clean it. Mine's good. This is what it looks like on the underside. And it's the thing that your weight goes on the top. You'll need to be able to vent steam out of this for 10 minutes to get your pot pressurized right. Chicken, duck, goose, turkey, or game birds. It gives the instructions for both raw packing or hot packing. And we're gonna raw pack. And so what it tells us to do is to cut them into generous 1-inch chunks. So that's what I'll do. Trim off the excess fat. This is also how I cut chicken breast up to feed us, like if we're gonna grill them. That way I don't have to beat them. They're both the same size, and one chicken breast feeds us both. So we've got our bowl of cut up chicken here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of my things needed, the tools that I'm gonna need for canning this chicken. So I'm using these lids from the Dollar Tree instead of my normal Tattlers that I love because I wanna test these on pressure canning and I haven't done it yet. So we need 14, this is a stack of 20. I'm just gonna sit them up here out of my way where they won't get anything on them. You'll need a towel of some sort to work on, and you'll need to get your chicken over here and ready. You will also need a jar lifter of some sort to get your jars in and out. If you don't have one, a big pair of tongs can work. It's just easier to do with these. This is the top, this is the handle. Your jar goes in. So this is how you'll do it. All right, so we've got that. And then this is our debubbler tool, and it also measures our head space. So we'll get that out and ready. Now our paper towel, this is especially important when you're doing meat, that you have vinegar. I don't have any white vinegars, which is what I normally use. I'm gonna use the apple cider vinegar, and you wipe the rim of your jars with it. After they're packed to make sure there's no meat residue or fat left on there that will hurt your seal. I'll also need to get my rings, which I keep over here. This is where I keep my rings. So I just will get out 14 of them and have them over here ready. 1-inch headspace. I'm going to push the air out of these. To make the 1-inch. You can use this end of this tool to kind of work it around. But you for sure want to leave the 1 inch. You can hear that air coming out. Just a little more right there. Okay, now we're going to wipe the top of the jars so that we get a good seal. Without touching the rubber part, you want to put these lids on. You don't need to add any kind of liquid or anything like that. These are going to make their own broth. Now, there is a difference in the texture of raw packing and hot packing, but the biggest thing I've noticed is what's left on the jar. When you do it like this, the proteins cook on the jar, where when you raw pack, you add broth and it doesn't stick to the edges of the jar. Okay, so we're gonna put these in. And we'll just keep packing these the same way until they're all into the canner. So everything goes into the canner cold, your jars, your water, everything. I'm lucky my canner has a line on the side that I use as a guide. All right, I'm just cleaning up. I've washed my hands up good. I've got all the jars filled and in the canner with the lid locked on. I'm gonna put it on just under high, and once the steam starts coming out right here, I'll show it to you, a good steady stream. You time 10 minutes before you drop your lid on. So we'll give it a few minutes. All right, so we've got some steam. Can you see it? Can you hear the rolling in the pot? It's hard to show it on the camera, the steam. So we're gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. Oop, and the lock just came up, which means for sure it's a good steady stream. All right, our timer just went off and you can see pressure's already building in there. So we're just gonna drop this on. And no matter what, we are not gonna touch that or move it, period. All right, it's gaining in pressure pretty fast. So what I wanna do is turn down the heat just a little so that when it gets to the 11 pounds that we are needing to can this, that I don't have to crank it way down and have a big temperature difference. So I wanna keep turning it down just a little bit as it's gaining pressure. And so once it gets to our 11 pounds, which it's at 8 right now, so once it gets to our 11 pounds, then I am going to keep turning it down and listening to it, because you can tell if it's getting too hot, this thing will rock. This little weight will rock at 15 pounds. So if you hear that, you know you need to come in and turn it down. So I keep turning it down about 1/4 of a turn or one bump on my dial here until it no longer is gaining. So it doesn't drop below 11 pounds ever, but it doesn't really gain anymore. Sometimes it rides right at 12 pounds and I'm fine with that, as long as it doesn't fall under the 11 that we need for our altitude. All right, so you can see we're right at 11 pounds here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down just another notch like this, but I'm gonna watch this closely to make sure it doesn't stop gaining in pressure, or so that it doesn't lose pressure. Now I know where my sweet spot is on my stove, and I'm gonna end up turning it to here before we're done, because this is gonna keep gaining. But I don't wanna do it all at one time, because you can see I have a flame under there, and if I go from full heat down to low, it's liable to siphon the food out of my jars because of the temperature change. All right, so we're holding pretty steady here at 11 pounds, and I still haven't moved it to its sweet spot, so I'm just gonna go sit down for a little while and sip on my coffee. Okay, I just filled a glass of water to drink and looked at it and noticed that it's at 12. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it down just a little. I have to watch my flame to see if it's actually doing anything, because you know how a gas stove is. Okay, so it's at 12. I'm gonna watch it here for a second. If it keeps gaining, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit more in about 5 more minutes. But I can tell it's already still gaining, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it down just a little more. Yeah, and I think I'm just about to my sweet spot where it should hold steady for me. You'll find with practice and just canning things that you'll learn the sounds of your equipment, and you'll become a better judge of how it's going each time you do it. Seems to be holding pretty steady. Oh, I have to start the timer. It's for 75 minutes, which I think I've been here for about 5 minutes already, so I could have set it for 70, but just to be safe. Now, these are 8-ounce jars, but the time in the book, the ball book, is for pints or quarts, so I'm just using the pints time of 75 minutes. If you're doing pints, do 75 minutes. 8-ounce jars, 75 minutes. Or if you were doing quarts, you do those for 90 minutes. Okay, I think I'm gonna go sit down for a little while. I've got 75 minutes, but I'm gonna keep listening and checking on it. I want to make sure it does not drop. If it drops below your 11 pounds, you have to start all over. We don't want that. All right, we're down to our last few seconds here. So we're just going to turn off the heat completely and wait. We're not going to touch this still. We're going to wait until this falls. Once this falls, we're gonna 2 minutes, and then you can take that off. It's super important to wait until the lock drops and there's no pressure on the pot before you open it. And if you don't, you'll be in danger of your contents siphoning out, and then you'll have a bad seal. All right, so it's been about 32 minutes and the lock just dropped there. So we're gonna give it 2 minutes on the timer, and then we'll take this off. All right, our 2 minutes is up. So we're gonna pull this off, and we're gonna wait another 2 minutes before we open the lid. All right, so it's been another 2 minutes, and we're gonna just pop this lid open and open it away from us. Move it to the sink. And now we're gonna wait another 10 minutes before we take the jars out of the canner. So it's been 10 minutes, and you'll need a towel on your counter where you're gonna sit these at. And we're just gonna get them out. When you've got 14, the first one's a little hard. So you might have to use tongs. Oh, you can hear the lids popping, and that's what we want. So we're gonna sit these out and not touch them until they're cool. So we're not gonna touch these until they're cool. So I just got these out of the canner and I realized that I did not put vinegar in my pot. So for you guys, I will have already told you to add vinegar. Okay, it's the next day, so I'm taking the rings off. Every one of them appears to have sealed, but the true test is when you take the rings off. And so, while not using vinegar in the canning pot did cause me a little discoloration, you can see it there. It doesn't hurt the processing at all of the chicken or the finished product. So that's the next step, is to wash them and put them away and use them as needed. And so each one, you should be able to hold it by the lid like this after you take the ring off. Everyone's sealed. The Dollar Tree canning lids work. I'm just gonna let these rings soak for a minute and then put them in the dishwasher. So the reason you wanna wash your jars off good every time you can, not only because to wash off the not using vinegar residue, but so that you don't get mold on the outside of your jar. And then all that's left to do is dry them off good and write what's in it. Chicken. I just write it right on the jar. It comes right off when you wash it. I do this because normally I have tattlers and I don't want to write on the lid. And then you can store them in your pantry and eat them as needed. So what do you guys want to see next? Let me know.